Football! Let's go!
Hello, everybody. Let's go. This is Bold Predictions Podcast number 1. This year, we're going to go over the entire NFL schedule, all 32 teams, and discuss what we think the win-loss record's going to be. The first team on our list is actually going to be the Buffalo Bills. Much anticipated listing, I believe, because they are a Super Bowl favorite. And everybody's probably excited to hear what I have to say about the Buffalo Bills. To start off this season, they faced the Los Angeles Rams at the Rams. I'm actually going to give this game to the Rams in a close one. If it was in Buffalo, I would probably swing the other way and give it to Buffalo Bills. However, with it being in LA to open the season with a Super Bowl winning Rams, we're going to go ahead and give it to the Rams on this one. Their next game will be Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, I think, will regress a little bit this year. We'll definitely give the Bills that victory in week 2 against the Tennessee Titans. Next up is the Miami Dolphins, probably the most underrated team going into this season, I believe. With the addition of Tyreek Hill and all the pressure on Tua, I believe they're going to perform good enough to surprise quite a few folks. This one is in Miami, and I believe this is going to be the biggest upset in week 3, and Miami will win this game. After that, they have the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are always a tough team with Lamar Jackson, and it's a tough team for anybody to get past. I do think the Buffalo Bills make it past the Baltimore Ravens. I'm disappointed to say it for the Ravens fans out there, but the Buffalo Bills will beat the Ravens even in Baltimore this year for their first road victory, by the way. Next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers are a tough team every year with Tom Coughlin. He makes it unbelievable to play against. And he always has a very competitive team. There's a lot of question marks going into Pittsburgh this year. And I don't think Pittsburgh has what it takes as a complete team, especially with the question marks at the quarterback position, to get past the Buffalo Bills. So look for the Buffalo Bills to win versus Pittsburgh. Next up is at Kansas City. Probably the most anticipated game of the year as a Chiefs fan, and most of the NFL, I believe, especially those Buffalo Bills fans. Nothing is going to excite them more from my next take. I believe, unfortunately, the Buffalo Bills will win in Kansas City for just the second time. It's kind of unexpected, and I'm surprised at the pick, but they do have a very competitive team this year, and it's a very complete package. And we also know that if it's going to come down between Allen and Mahomes, it's a playoff showdown that we have to worry about, and look forward to those predictions later on. Next up is a bye week. This gives them a chance to get healthy pretty early on. Kind of questionable in that aspect, but it gives them a chance to regroup against their next opponent, which is going to be the Green Bay Packers. I like the Bills coming off of a bye in this game. If it was a regular season matchup with no bye, maybe Aaron Rodgers pulls it off. However, we're going to lean towards the Bills in this situation as well. After that, they face the New York Jets, which is a gimme win for most teams in the NFL. And then we have the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are a tough team, but they're kind of lacking at that certain special position with Kirk Cousins. We like Kirk Cousins in the aspect that he's a steady guy. He's going to give you wins against the teams he's supposed to beat. But with this being a big matchup, not in prime time though, we're going to lean towards the Bills again and give them the win. Next up is the Cleveland Browns. They won't have Deshaun Watson. We're going to give it to the Bills. Followed by that is the Detroit Tigers. or the Detroit Tigers. Sorry about that. That's the Detroit Lions. I'm getting baseball mixed up with football here. The Detroit Lions are a surprisingly competitive team this year. I believe with the young draft picks that they have, they're going to upset some teams, but the Buffalo Bills won't be that team they upset, unfortunately. So we'll lean again towards the Buffalo Bills to give them the win against the Lions. After that, they're facing Mac Jones in New England. They have the superior team again here, even though with Bill Belichick, you never know what they're going to put on the field, and it's usually at least a competitive winning team. The Bills do have the better team, though, and at the end of the day, even though Mac Jones is a Pro Bowl quarterback, we're going to leave it with Allen and the Bills to get this done and scoot on to another easy win with a pretty long win streak at this point. But after the Jets, they face those Miami Dolphins again. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, this is a late game, late in the year, in a cold Buffalo. It would really be in their favor to actually play in Buffalo early on in the season when they got that first win that I gave them. But it's cold, and in Buffalo it's extra cold. And none of the players on the Dolphins are going to succeed in that situation, I believe, unfortunately. It'll be an upset victory, in my opinion. I hate to pick the Bills again over the Dolphins, but they're going to win this game. Next up is Chicago. It's a real unpredictable team this year, I believe, with Chicago, and the Bills have enough to beat them, at least on paper, and if they stay healthy, of course. So we're going to go ahead and give the Bills a win against the Bears, as most people would probably agree. Next up is a big Monday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals, against Joe or Burrows. He's a beast. He made it to the Super Bowl with a team that no one really seen coming. I don't think Allen is actually the superior quarterback in this situation. And it's questionable if the Bills have the superior team. We're going to give it to Cincinnati, especially since it's in Cincinnati. And to end the season, they're going to face New England again. It's at home for an easy win to end the year strong going into the playoffs, and more than likely with a bye. So what we're looking at with the Bills is a 14-3 season. I believe most people would say that's a pretty realistic expectation. The only games that I would look at for any upsets is maybe that second Dolphins game. Besides that, there's not a lot of teams on that schedule. Maybe if you got Kansas City got lucky, especially in Kansas City, you could see that upset as well. Obviously, you can guess that I'm hoping for that kind of a situation here. Now, moving on, we're going to move on to the Miami Dolphins. This is a real underrated team, in my opinion. I believe Tua is going to not have an MVP season. It's going to be a little off that. However, with such a dynamic team and so many weapons, and especially with the new coaching staff, the Dolphins are going to upset the NFL. So let's look at their schedule. Their first game is at Tampa Bay. They're going to win that game even against Tom Brady. Tom Brady's going to realize why he really should have just gone to the Dolphins if he could have made that happen. But they're going to shock the league to open up this season, I believe. We're going to see some amazing things all around. It's going to be a tough game. Obviously, you're going against the GOAT, Tom Brady. He's the best quarterback that's ever been. But with the lack of off-season practices, I think they're actually going to have a rough start to the year. So after the Tampa Bay game, they go, this is the preseason, actually. I kind of messed that up. We're going to go ahead and edit that out, I guarantee you. Now, with the Miami Dolphins, to open up the year, they play the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots with Mac Jones is always a tough team. to play against, especially with Bill Belichick planning everything you do. But the Dolphins are going to upset a lot of people this year. And with Bill Belichick having no tape on what's going on with the Dolphins and the new coaching staff, I would expect the Dolphins to win this game pretty easily, actually. After that, they make a trip to Baltimore. Baltimore is a tough team, and I believe Baltimore actually wins this game. Lamar Jackson is just a more established quarterback than Tua. We have to hope for no injuries again for the Ravens this year, but we're going to go into the season thinking everybody stays a healthy team because that's the way we should hope and predict for the season. The Ravens have a more complete around squad, so we're going to give the more seasoned veteran, the MVP, Lamar Jackson, the win here. After Baltimore, they make the trip to Buffalo, or they host Buffalo, I'm sorry about that, and they beat Buffalo. They beat, as you may have been upset in the Buffalo video, the Dolphins have an unexpected team this year. Allen is the better quarterback, and I generally lean towards the better quarterback when making my predictions. However, the Dolphins squad is an unstoppable squad. We've already seen what Hill can do against the Bills, and you're not going to see that much of a drop-off with Hill's production with Tua. We've seen it with Matt Moore, Chad Henne, Alex Smith, and especially Mahomes. He's just a generational talent, and to expect anything less is silly until you see otherwise, in my opinion. So after the Dolphins beat Buffalo, they take a trip to Cincinnati. Cincinnati has that squad this year. They still have the young wide receivers, Joe Burrows, and he's an amazing talent. So we're going to go ahead and pick Cincinnati against Miami, even though it's going to be a closer game than I think most people would predict, especially before we see the Dolphins in action the first couple weeks. After that, they go back on to winning against the Jets. The Jets are a young team, but they're still the Jets. And until I see otherwise, we're going to go ahead and pick the Dolphins to beat the Jets. Then they make an appearance against the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings with Kirk Cousins will get destroyed by the Dolphins. There's just not enough firepower on their offense to keep pace with the Dolphins. So we're going to lean with the Dolphins for a pretty easy win here, I believe. After that, they play Pittsburgh Steelers, and they will beat Pittsburgh Steelers unless I see something magical out of their quarterback room. I expect the Steelers to be more in that 8 and 9 kind of category. Almost said 8 and 8 because they're used to 16 seasons. After that, they play a tough game with the Lions. They're going to beat the Lions, but it'll be a closer game than expected. Expect that to be a tough matchup. Then they play the Bears. They'll beat the Bears, even in Chicago, which is getting tough that time of the year. They'll still pull off the victory. After that, they get the Cleveland Browns without Deshaun Watson. So this isn't much of a matchup until later in the year for the Browns, I believe. So we're going to give the Dolphins that win as well. Then they get the bye week. And then they face the Houston Texans, which is probably the weakest team in the NFL. So I'm going to go ahead and give the Dolphins the win against the Houston Texans. Then they place the 49ers, and this is going to be a tough one for them. The 49ers are a really unknown squad, but I believe they'll probably have it put together by this time of the year. And that makes it pretty interesting, I believe. After the Niners, and they beat the Niners, they played the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, going into the season, I think most people would predict the Chargers to win this matchup. But I'm actually going to go for the Miami Dolphins. It'll be a close game. Herbert's a tough guy, a quarterback. He's the superior quarterback again. He just doesn't have the weapons to keep pace with the Dolphins, even though he is close to it, and they're going to have a spectacular defense. and that kind of keeps in check Tua, especially that defensive line they have. But I believe the Dolphins are going to be the upset pick here. If I would have to assume what most people would predict in this situation. After the Chargers, they play the Bills in Buffalo later this season. Don't like this game for the Dolphins. This is where they lose. After that, it goes to Green Bay, and I believe Green Bay actually beats them. I hate to say it, but Aaron Rodgers is just such a superior quarterback that even with a worse squad, his team overall is not impressive in my opinion, and he's going to regress this year because of it. But he's still Aaron Rodgers, four-time MVP for a reason. He's going to find a way to get past Tua and the Dolphins. Then they make a game against New England at New England late in the year. The Dolphins always beat the Patriots, even without a good team. So we're going to look for that sweep this year and give them the Patriots. And to finish the season, it is the New York Jets. So that's another easy win for them. You always got to like that matchup for any team to end the season. And with that, we're looking at like a 13-4 team. I believe they're going to be the first wild card. And expect a lot of exciting things out of the Dolphins. It's going to make it harder for them going on because they don't get these great early draft picks anymore. But I think they're going to end up keeping Tua just because he does well enough to do the job, but he won't be a Super Bowl winning quarterback anytime in his career, unfortunately. Now, moving on, we're going to slide right over to the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick and the Pro Bowl Mac Jones. If anyone, I think Mac Jones is an impressive guy. I hate to be disappointing to you. He's just Jimmy Garoppolo as a young guy with no Tom Brady in front of him, in my opinion. Start the season, they play the Miami Dolphins, and Miami wins that game. Bill Belichick doesn't get his usual scouting report. And it's the Dolphins. They have a great team this year, and they beat the New England Patriots. After that, they play Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not gonna win this game, unfortunately. I think it's going to be a close one. I'd like to see it a little bit better, closer matchup. But it's still a young team that's adjusting to each other. I think the Patriots, with Mac Jones going into his second year, just slightly more established, knows what he's doing. He's going to get the job done even if he throws the ball 5 times. After that, they play the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens win that game. Lamar Jackson is the better quarterback, better overall team, I believe. We'll look for that as another loss for the Patriots. Then they make a trip to Green Bay. Again, that's a tough one for New England. Aaron Rodgers is just so much better than Mac Jones that Bill Belichick is not going to pull something out of his hat for this game. After that, this is going to be another surprising win, but the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions beat the Patriots this year, and it's going to shock the NFL, I believe, a little bit because the Lions are putting something together finally. It's not going to be good enough to make the playoffs, but you got to like what they're putting together in Detroit, and they pull off an impressive win against the Patriots. After the Patriots, they have the Cleveland Browns. They beat the Cleveland Browns without Deshaun Watson. That should be a pretty easy game for them. Then they get the Bears. That's going to be another easy win, I believe. Followed by another easy win with the Jets. We're just cruising through these picks because it's just that easy for Bill Belichick to get through those games and kind of get his team back on a winning path, I believe. Next, they play the Colts. The Colts will beat them this year. The Colts have a pretty surprising team. They've upgraded slightly at the quarterback, And that slight improvement is going to be enough to beat the Patriots. Then they get a bye week, a much needed one at that point, I believe. And after the bye, they play the Jets. So it's kind of a wasted bye on an easy team, but they beat the Jets. Then they go in and play the Vikings. I don't like Kirk Cousins, but Kirk Cousins pulls off this win with the Vikings, beats Bill Belichick, and gives them a little feel-good situation for pulling that off. After that, they play the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a super tough team this year, and they have enough to easily get past the Patriots. After that, they play the Cardinals. With Kyler Murray, they don't have the team built enough to play the Cardinals. You worry about the Cardinals' health that late in the year, and if Kyler Murray's even studying for this game. I believe Call of Duty has been out for a little while after they play each other, so maybe he's back on track then. After that, they play the Las Vegas Raiders with another loss. Derek Carr is going to win this game because he's the better quarterback than Mac Jones with a much better team. So even if Mac Jones makes a huge improvement in year two, it's still probably not enough to get past the Raiders, even though I can't stand the Raiders personally. Then they play another tough game against Cincinnati. Cincinnati wins that game. They're a real tough team. Should be a pretty easy game for Cincinnati, in my opinion. After that tough loss, they lose again to Miami and Buffalo, and they finish the year 7-10. And it's not a real good look for Belichick, and kind of a regression. But it kind of reminds them that they have a whole lot to work on still left with the New England Patriots, and probably still working on developing Mac Jones as a quarterback, if he's even going to ever pan out. Personally, I think he's the most overrated young rookie quarterback. He's just put into a great coaching situation, so don't expect anything ever too crazy out of Mac Jones, in my opinion. Moving on, we're going to go into the last team, into the AFC East, and that is the New York Jets. As pretty much everyone can tell if you've been listening the whole time, if you're just joining for your Jets portion, which I don't blame you on, you're likely going to be slightly disappointed going into this year. They've made a lot of great additions, but it's not enough to be a real competitive team, especially in the division they're in. It's kind of a handicap. They've got to build a lot of teams, and I still think even if the picks they've made land and hit, they're still probably 2 seasons out. So to start the season, they play the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to go ahead and give that an easy win to the Ravens. And then they play the Cleveland Browns, which is going to give them their first win this year. Look at that, Jets fans. I bet you weren't expecting that. And I'm sorry, Browns fans. It is what it is. Until Watson comes back, we're not going to call the Browns a competitive team, even though they have a stacked roster. So unless it's an easy team, you're not going to win. Hope you play the Texans. After that, they play Cincinnati. Cincinnati's going to give them another loss. Easy win for Cincinnati. Then they play the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are going to win this game. It's going to be probably their first win without looking at their Pittsburgh Steelers schedule. Kind of get them right back on path and kind of give the Jets the rocky start they weren't expecting. After that, they play the real strong team of the Miami Dolphins. I expect the Dolphins to cruise through this game pretty easily. And then they play the Green Bay Packers. That doesn't look good for any team. Kind of trying to rebuild like the Jets always are. So we're going to give that game to the Green Bay Packers. After the Packers, we're going to play the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos are not going to be they're not going to live up to expectations. Let me put it that way. I think Russell Wilson is past his prime, and he doesn't have the quarterbacks to be a super all-star. But saying that, they still beat the Jets. then after the Broncos, they play the Patriots. The Patriots win that game. The Jets don't really have what it takes. It's going to be a close matchup, I believe. It'll probably go down to the fourth quarter, especially probably pretty late. You might be able to even bet them with some points and still win that bet, I believe. It's going to be a close game. Then, unfortunately, they play the Buffalo Bills, and the Jets don't have what it takes to beat the Bills. Probably several years, if anytime soon, we see them beat the Bills. Then they get a much-needed bye week. That bye couldn't come at a better time, coming off all those losses. That's a pretty tough going, especially to start the season early on for a young team. After the bye, you're looking at the New England Patriots. The Patriots win that game again. And then they play the Bears, and I think they actually pull this game off. This is probably the most wish-washy game of the season for me, is the Bears versus the Jets. It could be kind of tough to predict two bad teams, and I think I'm just going to lean towards the Jets with an upset victory. I apologize to Bears fans. I think this could go your way, and look for my mid-season picks to see if I change my mind on this one. After the Bears, they play the Vikings, and I'm actually going to go with an upset here. We're going to pick them to win against the Vikings. They have no business winning this game. I believe it's just going to be more of a coin flip for me, and I believe it landed on heads for Jets, in just my opinion. Kirk Cousins probably the better quarterback, but we're still going to go with the Jets here. Make them feel a little better about themselves, especially with as many losing games as they had. After that surprise victory against the Vikings, they get beat in the dirt again with a Bills game. So expect them to lose that game. They're going to play the Detroit Lions late in the year. I'm going to give Detroit Lions that game. It's going to be one of the few games the Lions win, but I think it's going to be a surprise victory for all the Lions fans. And kind of a disappointment in the Jets fans, and just kind of put a stamp on how their season has gone at this point, even though they can tell by the record right now. After that, they get Jacksonville. This is another tough game to predict. I kind of like Jacksonville this year, and I want to give it to the Jets, but I'm going to lean towards Jacksonville. The Jets are kind of been getting beat up all season. And if they had won more games, I think they'd have the morale to beat the Jaguars. But I'm going to give it to the Jaguars. With the many top picks as they've had, I think they've hit on just more than the Jets have. And then after that, they play Seattle. And that gives them another win. Look at that. They're beating Seattle late in the year. And to finish the season, they're playing Miami. I might have lost track here, but I believe this puts them at a 4-13 season. Correct me if I'm wrong in the statements, please, in the comments, and let me know what you think about this AFC East. Again, that gives just a recap. Gives something the Jets fans to look forward to. Is again, the Bills are going to win the division. The Dolphins going to be right there on their heels, getting a playoff spot. And then it kind of goes downhill for everybody else. Thank you for tuning in to that portion of the AFC East. And I'm looking forward to the next portion of the podcast. Thank you, guys.